Good afternoon. I call to order the school board workshop. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
Buffalo?
Here.
Inge?
Present.
Martin? Present. Paulson?
Present.
DeCalagero?
Here. Our first agenda item, 2.01, School Board Goal 3, Interim Measures Number 2, followed by agenda item 2.02, School Board Goal 4, Interim Measures Number 1 and 2, with Interim Superintendent James Pohl.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Madam Chair DeCalagero, members of the board. This afternoon, I'll be presenting some data on Goal 3, Measure 2, which will be similar to what we saw last time when we did Measure 1. With this one, the Goal 3 is focused on our subgroup of Black students reading on or above the grade level as measured by the SOL reading test. And 3.2 is specifically students in that subgroup scoring at the urgent intervention level, which is the lowest possible level to score. So the goal here is to see that number go down. So a downward trend is an awesome trend with this data. So when we start looking at the graph, we can see that we're on the downward trend like we'd like to see. The data show that students in the Black subgroup have continuously decreased the percentage of students in the urgent intervention category for STAR reading since actually the fall of 2023, but specifically this year, we hit all our targets on this, actually exceeded all of our targets in this area with the STAR assessment. What's going well? The measure exceeded the target by 8.7 points. There was a decrease of 16.3 points of students in the Black subgroup in the urgent interventions category in STAR reading from spring 2024 to spring 2025. So in 1 year, we saw a 16.3 point improvement in this area. There's been nearly a decrease of 20 points from the spring of 2022 to the spring of 2025. What's not going well is, still the data, we're at right around that 20% mark still at the urgent intervention, and we want to be below that 10%, below the double digits in the urgent intervention category. So we are working towards that, though. So the state of the previous action steps, I'll be brief on this because it's very similar to what we talked about last week. It does discuss around the monitor reading plans and that we are following those up, and we did the winter reviews on those. We did March division-wide training. Intervention walks, we partnered with the VDOE to do their new literacy walk tool, the Virginia English Language Arts walkthrough protocol. So those were done. We conducted 92 observations across 13 schools using that tool and really got to dig into it and give some good feedback to the VDOE. So some next steps as we're going into summer with our data and preparing for the fall is to disaggregate further by subgroup and school to identify trends and target support where disparities persist, and really work with our reading specialists assigned to each school to make sure that they're on point with the targets as well. And then partner with school leaders to monitor and implementation of the foundational and comprehensive routines in high priority schools, using the ELA walkthrough protocol as an equity lens to ensure access to grade level texts and ensure the use of standards aligned questioning to promote deep thinking and meaningful engagement with text. So I'll pause there on this one before going to the next goal. This is 3.8 data. Yeah, the vowels is our younger data.
Okay.
STAR goes 3.8, yeah.
It was just because you had mentioned K2 teachers.
Yeah, so because we really track long-term, knowing that our K2 are going to become 3, 4, 5 in the future, so we really try to track all the way across.
Why is this out of alignment with our SOL scores? Are we better on STARS than we are on SOL?
Yeah, so when I was talking last week a little bit, just knowing where our scores are coming in. Now, we don't have VAP and we don't have final scores yet. Our reading scores saw some improvement, but not like we've seen in STARS. So as a reminder, all the reading standards changed, and it's a new reading SOL test this year. So everything's brand new, but STAR has been consistent. So our students are doing better. It's just the measure has changed at the state level, so we're going to do some correlation reports on that. So you're absolutely on the money, Mr. Calagero, that our SOL data is not going to show the same growth we've seen all year in STAR, but clearly our students are performing better because the data in STAR has been consistent over the years.
Thank you, Dr. Poole.
Sure.
So related to, if we could go back to the table. And so again, like I know these, if you could remind us, so the targets were set after, the fall data came in. So can you remind us why for 24, 25, we have the winter target and the spring target remain unchanged?
So, because we exceeded the target where we were expecting to go this spring. If you recall, when we set the targets originally, the annual target was 29%. So we had already met that target.
Okay.
When we started in, so we stay on track for where we're going here.
Okay.
But since we met the target already, there was, we decided not to reset these targets up here,
Okay.
knowing that we were going to likely continue to outperform. But
Okay, so that
we had
was-
already set annual targets, just not mid-year targets.
Okay. Okay, so that makes sense, because I was trying to remember what the rationale was for
Absolutely.
for that remaining, kind of the
Right.
same. So I appreciate that response. And then piggybacking on what Ms. DeCalagero's question. So I was also looking at, and you mentioned about, you're going to have to go back because of the new tests, go back and check assess the correlation between the STAR and the SOL tests. And so that kind of actually triggered me to kind of go back and see what the changes were to the tests. So I went back, I was looking at, looked up at Renaissance and looked at the STAR, their explanation of, and they've changed the benchmarks. So the benchmarks have actually changed, and their explanation that was provided is that we would see fewer students on, due to the differences in the percentile rank scores, would see a lower percentage of students who are, in fact, in the urgent intervention category. And also and therefore see more students in the proficient category. And that was something that to be expected. So in essence, we're a bit to I think your point is, how do we compare, I guess, where we're comparing apples to apples with the same benchmarks, so to really get a truer picture of the progress that's been made. And then to add to that is also looking at the same cohort of students and how they're moving from those that were in urgent intervention and moving to, because I think it's intervention and then on watch and then proficient, right? So, if you could speak to, I know that was a two-part question, but if you could speak to that a little.
Sure. So, the difficult task is that consistency of assessment, right, and scores.
Yeah.
And with everything changing, and I believe, I know Renaissance Star also was approved by the state as an alternative assessment to the growth assessment.
Okay.
So that might be a part of where they were reconfiguring their scores. I'm not positive about that, but I do know that it was an approved alternative assessment as well. So I think just like when any new assessment comes in, it just really comes with correlating and looking, and honestly, looking to see, is STAR still going to be a long-term assessment that we use? If it doesn't align, then this is the time where we start looking at that type of data. And then, we do, internally, we do some work on, cohorts and looking at that as far as assessments go, just not to the reporting level division-wide. So at the schools, we're looking at, and that's reading specialists look at that, and we do work at that data internally to look at our cohorts as well.
Thank you. And then because this is grades 3 through 8, did you see any grade levels where you didn't see that level of progress? Were there any grade levels where there was no progress or worsening of?
We didn't have any grade levels dropping.
Okay.
When looking at SOL data, just again, this is just off the top of my head with the tables I think that have been shared with you guys. Middle school saw more growth than what we've seen in the past. And then actually, third and fourth grade had a little bit of a dip from what we've seen in the past. So I think just getting used to that assessment style is a big note of what we have to do for next year.
Other questions?
Move on to 4.1. That's 4.2. So 4.1, goal 4 is focused on the decrease of achievement gaps between different subgroups. And the goal is to have no gaps greater than 10% by the end of the goal period. And specifically with 4.1, we're focusing on reading. And this gets to be a deep goal, and there's a lot of graphs, a lot of charts. I know you guys read it and looked at it. Because we're talking about both the proficiency level and the urgent intervention level in each one just concerning reading and one concerning math. So when we look overall at the data, we just before I get into the specific comments, we see on the chart here that score-wise, we saw growth across the board. However, we saw 2 of our gaps increase as well with that. When we look at the reading proficiency, and when we look at the reading urgent intervention, we saw improvement across the board except for our EL students. And then our gaps grew in 3 of our areas too when we look at that. But score-wise, for the most part, we might not have hit all of our goals, but we did see growth across the board with our subgroups. So the proficiency data, specifically, it's showing all subgroups saw improvements in proficiency rate on STAR. From the winter to spring test administration. However, the 2 areas that saw an increase in their gaps was between our subgroups with black and white and our SWD, non-SWD. And with urgent intervention, all subgroups showed improvement from the winter to spring, except for students in the EL subgroup. What's going well? Gaps between SES, non-SES, EL, non-EL, Hispanic, non-Hispanic have decreased from the winter to spring. And all subgroups showed improvement from the winter to spring, and all gaps saw decreases from the spring of 2024 to the spring of 2025, except for SWD, non-SWD, and Hispanic, non-Hispanic. So looking at the year stretch there. And then within urgent intervention data, the gaps between white, black met the target for the spring 2025. Students in the SWD, non-SWD decreased the gap from winter to spring. However, the target wasn't met. Additionally, the gap from spring 24 to spring 25 decreased by 5.9 points, so we still are seeing decreases over the year. And then although the gap target was not met for students in the SES, non-SES subgroups, it was only 0.6 points away, and it did decrease by 8.9 points from the previous year. So we saw some great areas there. And I'm going to pause real quick in the comments just as a reminder for the board members that weren't here when we set this goal. This goal is kind of a 2-part goal. It's decreasing the gaps while making sure the scores are rising. So we are, for the most part, seeing a lot of that go on. And then although the students in the EL subgroup saw a slight increase and did not make the target, they are 28.8 points below where they were for spring 2024. What's not going well within the proficiency, although there was a growth from the winter to spring in all subgroups, the only subgroups to meet the target were white and non-SWD. Within urgent intervention, the percentage of students with disabilities in the urgent intervention category remains high at 44.6%, despite a slight improvement compared to the fall rate of 49%. So we still have a tremendous amount in urgent intervention. And then the gap between Hispanic, non-Hispanic students has grown from 7.3 to 10.3 from the spring of 24 to spring 25. The status of previous action steps. One was about analyzing unit test data at each grade level. The English office participated in school data meetings in March to support instructional leadership teams as they finalize instructional roadmaps and 45-day plans for the end of the year, with the intention in the 4 core areas to really guide instruction. That partnership with the Virginia Literacy Grant. Schools participated in the second of 3 professional development workshops on April 30th, and the school leaders explored the science of reading, conducted root cause analysis, and brainstormed ideas of need for students. And then they were provided professional development. And the third and final workshop is scheduled for June 17th, which was yesterday, when teams will take their final action plans and incorporate them into their 25-26 comprehensive school support plan. So already principals are working on their CSSPs with the data coming in from this year and preparing for next year. That's our theme throughout the summer, actually. It will ride right into school, the Summer Leadership Institute as well, as focusing on those CSSPs. June 24th and 26th, C&I will be collaborating with the Senior Coordinator of School Improvement and select building principals to support the implementation of CSSPs. Those would be our principals who are at targeted schools, federally targeted schools, to give them additional support during the summer to really plan it out. The Department of Learning Support collaborated with the English office, and they're collaborating with Learning Support in pre-K Title I offices to identify opportunities to expand SIPS training for teachers across more support groups. And expand the use of elevation strategies and EL database on professional development platform, providing asynchronous modules for best instructional practices for ELs. And additionally, we are planning a lot of professional development. You know, we've have the positions for 33 new EL teachers, and we're in the process of doing as much hiring as we can. I think we ended up with just over 20 of our own that finished the Grow Your Own EL. ESL teacher certification, so that's strong as well. Some of our next steps as we go into summer, the summer work includes the development of 25-26 professional development plan with the emphasis on all staff division PD days to ensure teachers across the board, including specialists and ELA teachers and SPED teachers and GRTs, receive the PD for high-quality instructional materials and evidence-based interventions, as well as specially designed instruction. And then within the catalog, which has more choices for teachers, schedule multiple and various opportunities for teachers to access PD on HQIM, EBI, and SDI. So I'll pause there before going to mathematics.
And just to kind of go back to what we talked about with Goal 3, so it's something that I think would be interesting to explore would be to understand how much of the improvement was a result of the changes in the cut scores to as compared to true improvement, and looking at that, especially as you look to correlate with the SOL. And the other piece is, my question is, so the gaps for our black-white gap and our students with disabilities and to non-students with disabilities gap had increased. What in your root cause analysis, what are you attributing those increases to?
So, we're in the phase still for division-wide root causes, because we focus more on that with SOL data.
Okay.
And then I will say, Ms. Basine, it's a difficult task to go back and look at this with a different cut score, because we don't get that data. So we're not provided the data with the previous cut score information. So, I don't know that we'll be able to go back that deep. I understand exactly the reasoning why, but really looking forward at our SOL and the standards report and digging deep into that, I think will give us more bang for our buck on when we're really analyzing the data.
Okay. And I'm just asking this for my own understanding. So if I heard you correctly, so you're not really looking at the root cause analysis of why the increase in the gaps with the STAR data, but looking at it more with SOL. If the STAR is found, or it has been thought to believe, which is why we're monitoring it, that it does highly correlate with the SOL, why not look at that with the STAR data to kind of predict what might be factors impacting the SOL score?
So during the year, we look at it with the STAR data, because it's the active data that we use throughout the year. During the summer, when we really dig down, especially with the new assessment and reading, we really want to focus on the SOL test, just because, when we're working with our reading specialists aren't 12 months, so we have few amount of folks that can really dig into this, and the importance of the SOL test and those standards Until we have a correlation report to see if it's still highly correlated, I'd rather, in my professional opinion, it's wiser to go with the SOL data because we know that's still going to be in place next year. If we have a wide correlation, let's say the correlation, it's been around 80%, let's say it drops down to, 60, 65%, I don't know how reliable STAR will be in the future. So that's, we're going to start with where we know it's reliable. Once we have the correlation, if we see it high again, then we will dig back into STAR. Does that make, just trying to use the resources wisely.
Right, and that makes sense, and I appreciate that explanation. So this summer, that's something that you're going to do to determine, and there are other assessments that you may bring forward to us as recommendations for us to then monitor, our interim progress toward that, right?
Yeah, so our students still take the growth assessment as well.
Okay.
So we're going to look at that piece of data and, for alignment as well. And it's a possibility that we look at that and say, if STAR is not correlated, when we recalibrate our goals in the fall, that we start looking at, okay, we might need to change from STAR to SGA. But we're just not ready to take that leap right yet.
Okay. SGA is a student growth assessment. Okay. All right, and do they take those 3 times just as they do with?
Well,
this?
it's twice in the SOL test. So they take it in the fall,
Oh,
winter,
right.
then SOL test.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. All right, on to mathematics. So mathematics, same basic layout where we're trying to reduce that gap to below 10% while rising the scores. And again, on this chart, you can see that we did, all subgroups saw growth. We did see 2 gaps increase, the gap with SWD, non-SWD, and then SES, non-SES for the proficient scores. And then on the next chart, we saw the same improvements across the board, except for the gaps with SES, non-ES, and EL, non-EL. We saw a little bit of a wider gap on this one. However, those gaps are also already close to the 10% mark that we're looking for. So the data show improvements in proficiency from winter 24 to spring 25 across all groups. Additionally, between spring 24 and spring 25, all student subgroups demonstrated growth in mathematics proficiency, with the most significant gains seen among English learners, 20.6%, Black students, 9.2%, and students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, our SES students, with 8.1%. Subgroups narrowed for Black, White, EL, non-EL, and SES, non-SES. And the data for urgent intervention from winter 24-25 to spring 24-25, the STAR Math Urgent Intervention data shows a positive trend, with all student subgroups decreasing in the percentage of students needing urgent intervention. Notably, high-need groups such as Black students, students with disabilities, economic disadvantage, and ELs all made gains through the rate of improvement, although the rate of improvement varied. So what's going well? Again, students in all subgroups showed those improvements. And the subgroups narrowed for the Black, White, EL, non-EL, SES, and non-SES. And with urgent intervention, the data shows that most student subgroups reduced the percentage of students scoring at the urgent intervention level, with a positive indicator of academic progress. In particular, SWD, EL, Hispanic, Black all showed decreases in urgent intervention rates from one spring to the next. Annual measures there. What's not going well, proficiency data, although SWD students improved from 30.4 to 36.6, their performance remains below the 51% spring target, and the SWD and non-SWD achievement gap widened from 32.6 to 34.4. And despite gains, the following groups remain below their spring 25 proficiency target, are students in the Black subgroup, SWD, SES, and EL. With urgent intervention data, the SWD, EL, and SES students did not meet their spring targets, despite improving, and the gaps widened slightly between EL and non-EL, which increased from 25.5 to 27.6, and the gap between SES and non-SES students, which remained elevated. The gap between SES and non-SES remains persistent despite both groups improving. Status of previous action steps. The math office will continue to monitor the implementation of 23 standards. They implemented over 100 walkthroughs during this time period and observations to monitor and implement the implementation of the 23 standards and online instructional materials. The math office will continue to monitor the implementation of Zern and Admenum. They offered 18 individual virtual PD sessions to support teachers using Zern and Admenum from January 2025 till the end of the school year. And topics range from getting started to using the data for planning interventions. Each grade level increased Zern usage from 23-24 to 24-25. As Zern usage increased, Admenum usage decreased, and that we're using more Zern in Tier 1 instruction and for some Tier 2 and 3 supports as well. The math office will continue to monitor the implementation of data-driven small group instruction. They monitored it. There were also over 40 support offerings to include modeling and co-teaching small group instruction to coach teachers how to use small group instruction and evidence-based interventions. And analyzing the unit test data, the math office collaborated with ARA and used PowerSchool, our data monitoring tool, to train building math leaders on how to analyze unit assessment data. So our data warehouse actually breaks down our unit assessments by standard for teachers and shows them specifically where they are. And it also, through the year, it just grows with the standards. So it doesn't do it test by test. It adds everything together. So the more a standard is taught and tested, the more true data a teacher starts to see on their students. So that was something put into place during this year that we're starting next year with, which we're very excited about. Some next steps. The math office will investigate the newly adopted HQIMs with the 23 math standards and the NPS curriculum. They'll also support schools with the use of EBIs to respond to data. And the Office of Learning Support will introduce division-wide classroom observation tools with a specific focus on specially designed instruction and co-teaching to all school administrators in SY 25-26 and provide ongoing professional learning and feedback.
Questions?
Thank you. So one question I actually meant to ask, this pertains to both the reading and the math. So just as I refreshed myself, so the way we're defining proficiency includes the on-watch group.
Correct. So when we did the initial correlation, we were going into this, we saw the correlation was strong with the at or above and the on-watch, which were the top two
Right.
to students who passed the SOL test. So that's why we chose to use both those as proficient.
Okay. And with what, and I guess that was part, so as we have now been using that definition for proficiency over the course of the last, 2 years, I guess my question is, do you see any value in separating that out? Or I guess, will that be something that you continue to look at in the correlation
When we do the
analysis?
correlation report, everything's fair game at that point.
Okay.
When we're seeing the differences in what we're seeing here. So last year, if you recall, when we ended the year, our data was very close between
Yeah.
the STAR and the SOL assessment, the way
Right.
we were tracking it. Seeing the discrepancies we're seeing right now
Yeah.
based on preliminary data, everything's fair game on where we go with this. And so in the fall, I would expect that we probably come with different ways of measuring or showing growth associated with these goals. If the board decides to keep them or go with new goals, however we end up going.
Okay. I appreciate that. And then for, for the actuals compared, are there specific strategies, allocation of resources, or anything that you're finding in your assessment, even looking by grade level, where you see significant impacts? Can you speak to that a little bit, especially with math, where we know we've had that subject area harder to staff?
Right.
So I know you've talked about that before. If you can speak to that in terms of what we're seeing here.
So, I think, similar to reading with the math, though, where we see the most bang for our buck are with our live tutors. When we partner with UI, with middle school in our math support blocks, we hire local tutors for that if we can find them. That's equally as much of a challenge as finding a math teacher. But that live interaction is most important. I do think another thing we're looking at, and the state's also looking at, is the correlation of Zern and the use and the data points on Zern correlating with the SOL test, because our teachers are really enjoying that platform, as are our students. So the more that we see a correlation there, the more we're able to use that in and outside of class for different supports. So really with math, that's where we're seeing it. And I think we're seeing a decrease on the use of Edmentum, which, again, I think when we had the first opportunity to talk about when we brought on products, and I think it was Ms. Campson who said, a computer doesn't teach the child, and we had those discussions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's very true. So we look at the product and how it's being implemented, and, if it's time to sunset something, we'll look to sunset something. So, Zern, we've been very pleased with the results that we've been seeing, and if it's correlating well, then it's also about what can we take off plate so that we make sure that we're focusing where we need to focus. So all that in the summer planning is fair game.
Okay, and Dr. Pohl, you touched on my next question, which was going to be around Zern and Edmentum and how well you're seeing those platforms correlate with the progress or with, how students are performing, so. I
And we are
appreciate that.
seeing that with some usage correlation, but we really want to see it with the final Zern data with the student growth on Zern, not just usage.
I'd be interested in hearing more about that and I know, you've put that in there in terms of usage time and that impact as part of the strategy, so.
And that's where we set our initial goals. It was really about usage time.
Okay.
Getting students on it, implementing it in the lesson plan if it's appropriate, or making sure that they're getting their half hour of, all-in time, or when they're in their math support block that they're logged in and using it. And they're not just going in and doing, because we can tell if they go in to do a lesson, it's like click, 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 click. We can tell by the data because of the time that they spend in the product.
Yeah.
Working in the product.
Working in it, okay.
And we meet with them monthly. We meet with the Zern team monthly to review our data.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Other questions?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Pohl.
Pleasure.
Can I get a motion to enter into closed executive session?
I move that we go into executive closed session.
I second.
Ms. Moore Buffalo has put forward the motion, and Ms. Basine has seconded the motion. Ms. Tanner, will you please call the roll?
Okay. Move that the members of the School Board of the City of Norfolk go into a closed meeting for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are the discussion of persons and personnel actions included for vote on today's personnel report and discussion of past, pending, and future personnel actions and investigations concerning specific current employees of the school board. Discussion or consideration of disciplinary and any other matters concerning students in Norfolk Public Schools that would involve the disclosure of information contained in the scholastic record pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A2 of the Act. The subject covered by this exemption is the discussion of students on today's regular student support agenda in consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation or regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsections 2.2-3711A7 and 8 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are required advice of counsel regarding Freedom of Information Act requests and contractual matters and advice and briefing regarding the matters set above in subsections A and B of this motion. Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Olson?
May I ask a question of the lawyers?
It's unusual to do it at this point.
What?
It's unusual to do it at this point.
If I vote no, what will I have to leave the room?
No, I don't think you'll have to leave the room. However, it raises the question, having voted against the motion to enter closed session, how you can certify it afterwards. And you cannot vote not to certify the session without, prior to that vote, explaining in detail for the public and to go into the minutes why you are not certifying the session. So the outcome would be either whatever concern you had that caused you to vote against the motion to begin with has been eradicated by what was actually talked about, or you will have to say in detail the reasons that you cannot certify the meeting. And the only real reason to not certify a closed meeting is that you think the board has violated the law in some fashion. State that in detail so that it can be captured for the minutes prior to voting not to certify.
All right, thank you. I'll vote yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Calogero.
Yes.
Having to come in.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the school board business meeting. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine.
Here.
Buffalo.
Here.
Inge.
Present.
Martin.
Present.
Olson.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Calogero.
Here. Agenda item 4.03, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Ma'am, I think we have to certify the closed meeting. We haven't done that yet, have we?
I thought we did.
Was it done in there? Okay, I
It was
wasn't
done
in
in
the room.
there.
It was done in there. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 4.04, can I get a motion to adopt the school board business meeting agenda?
I move that we adopt the school board meeting agenda.
I second.
Ms. Moore Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Mr. Inge has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine.
Aye.
Buffalo.
Aye.
Inge.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Thomas. Calogero.
Aye. Agenda item 4.05, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Pohl.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair DeCalagero, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the board, administration, member of the community, and everybody watching. This month's superintendent report is packed with reasons to celebrate Norfolk Public Schools. From standout student athletes and scholars to dolphin watching to the Grand Canyon Adventures, Green STEM Camp, adult ed grads, and more. We're proudly honored over 1,500 class of 2025 graduates across 5 ceremonies. And our seniors earned over $81 million in scholarships. Time to see it all in action, media team. Video.
Congratulations to all our winners of the Atlantic Orthopedic Specialists Student Athlete of the Month Award.
I feel great because I really do deserve this because I went through a lot.
I know a few athletes who have gotten this, and they're all like very, very impressive. So I'm very proud to be chosen.
Just want to thank my coaches and my family. They helped me, put me in the right path to do this.
In collaboration with Atlantic Orthopedic Specialists, 15 of our students were honored this past school year. Congratulations to all.
Some of our spring high school teams made deep playoff runs. Let's take a look at some pictures by Byron.
Students from PB Young Elementary took a special trip to Virginia Beach for a day of adventure and discovery. Out on the Atlantic Ocean, they went dolphin watching, getting a first-hand look at these amazing creatures in their natural habitat. It was a day filled with excitement, learning, and unforgettable memories as students experienced the wonders of marine life up close. A big splash of fun and learning PB Young's dolphin watching trip was a success.
As part of the Equity and Excellence Learning Centers, students from Ruffner Academy took an unforgettable enrichment trip to the Grand Canyon. From breathtaking views to hands-on learning, this experience brought classroom lessons to life, deepening their understanding of science, geography, and natural history. It was more than a trip, it was a journey of exploration, inspiration, and discovery. Congrats to our students who successfully finished Norfolk Public Schools Start on Success program. A ceremony was held at Nauticus. This program empowers high school students with disabilities to confidently transition from school to the workforce and life after graduation.
Start on Success is a school-to-work program that we offer in Norfolk Public Schools, and we are supported by DARS, BCU, and we are partnered with Nauticus. In this program, the students participate in a 16-week paid internship. The students, first part of the year, they are enrolled in an education for employment class. When they're enrolled in that class, they're working on all of the soft skills necessary to be successful in the workplace. And during that internship, they're able to come in and put those skills to the test.
Congratulations to our students. In front of family and friends, 36 students participated in the Adult Education Services recognition ceremony held at Granby High. School board member Tiffany Moore Buffalo offered words of encouragement before it became official that this group of students were now graduates. Best wishes to the class of 2025.
35 seniors from the Medical and Health Specialties program at Maury High School completed their 4-year journey during a graduation ceremony on the campus of Eastern Virginia Medical School. These outstanding graduates received over $4 million in scholarship funds and completed over 7,000 hours of community service during their time in the program. But those achievements may not be their most impressive accomplishment.
I think the fact that 77% of the kids have over a 4.0, it almost becomes normalized, and I think that's what's crazy to me, is these students, they feel that if they don't have a 4.2 or 4.3, they're not working hard enough. They have that community of excellence, and it really drives them more than the teachers do.
While they were all thrilled to walk across the stage, they will miss the special sense of community they shared with one another.
I loved walking past all of my program teachers, and I just appreciate them so much. And it was just wonderful. I honestly love the community of it. I love coming back from lab every day in junior year and talking about what we learned and gushing about how fun the heart is and how fun the brain is, and just being a nerd about anatomy.
It feels amazing. I mean, all the hard work I put in for 4 years, it's just like, this is the thing that let me know I did it and I was done with it and I'm good. Most of these people I've known since middle school, even some from elementary school, but I've gotten close with a lot of them throughout my 4 years here. I'm just going to miss that tight-knit community I have.
On May 27th and 28th, Norfolk Public Schools proudly graduated over 1,500 students. Together, the class of 2025 earned more than $83 million in scholarships, an incredible achievement that reflects their dedication and hard work. Congratulations to all our graduates. Your future is bright, and we're proud of everything you've accomplished. To view complete graduations, head to our YouTube page, NPS K-12 VA.
On May 16th, Norfolk Public Schools hosted a special midday cruise aboard the Spirit of Norfolk to honor their retiring educators and staff. This celebration recognized their dedication and years of service to the district. As the ship sailed, retirees shared memories and looked forward to new adventures. The day was filled with fun, laughter, and dancing for a joyful send-off to a remarkable group. Thank you to all our retirees for your incredible contributions to Norfolk Public Schools. Congratulations and enjoy your retirement.
3 of our schools that performed exceptionally with the recent Read With Me competitions got a visit from track athletes from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. 6th grade students at Rosemont, along with 3rd graders from Larchmont and the Academy for Discovery at Lakewood, had the opportunity to talk with these outstanding student athletes about what they're reading and learn what college life as an athlete is like.
Well, I mainly told them about me to start with and some of the other student athletes here. We was talking about, putting school and sports together. And a lot of them was telling me about themselves, that they give me a lot of introductions about themselves. They told me about the book that they're reading right now, Animal Farm, which I also read in high school. So we connected a lot.
Today we're all gathering for this MIAC event where the sports team of this college is coming here. They're talking to us about college. They're telling us what to expect, and we've all split up into individual groups, and they're kind of just answering our questions, helping us with what to expect for our future.
We actually had the opportunity to talk to some of the students about their favorite books and also learn some special things about them, especially favorite facts or something that they like to do for fun. It was actually really fun. I haven't been in an elementary school in a long time, so I really enjoyed giving back and talking to students.
For complete video stories and more division-wide information about Norfolk Public Schools, visit the NPS website and check out our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram, NPS newsletter, and our podcast, NPS Unplugged.
That concludes the report.
Agenda item 4.06, citizens' comments. Ms. Tanner, how many speakers do we have for this evening?
Madam Chair, for today's citizens' comments, we have 21 speakers. Today's speakers signed up for public comments before the start of today's business meeting. If you would like to provide public comments, you are required to state the agenda item or items or topic you're discussing or addressing prior to providing your public comments at this meeting. When your name is called, please come forward to the speaker's podium, state your name and whether you have a child in Norfolk Public Schools, or if you are employed by the district, and state that agenda item or items. One person is to speak at a time. If you are representing a group, state the group's name. You may ask your group members to stand in place to be recognized. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. A timer is set with an alarm that will signify the end of your speaking time. State your position and give relevant facts or data. Avoid saying anything that identifies students or personnel information about individual employees. Personnel, disciplinary, and confidential matters may be addressed directly to the school board via email at schoolboard@npsk12.com. Comments should be addressed to the board and not addressed to an individual member. School board members do not respond to public comments at the time they are given. Any written statements or supporting materials should be given to the clerk. Chairwoman, our first speaker is Yvonne Wagner, followed by Kathy O'Hara. Oh, you scratched her. Oh, okay. Liz Albert. And then. No, I'm actually. Come on, Ms. Wagner. Well, I'll find you. Okay, go ahead.
School board members, Dr. Pohl, and those present. My name is Liz Albert, and I do not have children in NPS. I serve on the School Board Advisory Committee tasked with helping develop the much-needed school closure and consolidation plan. I wanted to express my concern about the negative repercussions firing a successful and efficient superintendent is likely to have on this time-sensitive plan. For why should the public trust the board that the board will ultimately approve a sound, responsible, and equitable plan that is best for the entire city when the majority acted so recklessly based on personal motives in the most important personnel decision a board can make? The 4 members who voted to terminate Dr. Birdsong without cause need to be held accountable for their lack of integrity. Number 1, the disastrous decision was made covertly, excluding the pro-superintendent contingent. The actual vote was not added to the agenda until during the work session to hide the majority's actions and to prohibit any public comment on this matter prior to their vote. The word did get out about the plans of the 4 school board members, but they blatantly disregarded the overwhelming support expressed by principals, teachers, city council members, and citizens, thus demonstrating a contempt for public input. Number 2, the decision was executed in an atmosphere board member Adele Martin described as, quote, a culture of bullying, unquote. It is a sad irony we hold children responsible for bullying when adults at the highest level of governance in the school system regularly stoop to intimidation in their deliberations with their colleagues. Number 3, it was retaliatory. At the last meeting, Colonel Paulson said this move was the result of a personal vendetta and anger over a May 22 memo from the superintendent in which she outlined instances of the board's dysfunction. Since unprofessional backdoor machinations and personal agendas are the modus operandi for the 4-member majority, it is only natural stakeholders fear these same behaviors will be applied to closures and consolidations. To the 4 board members responsible for the loss of a great superintendent, I would like to say, to continue in the manner you have been operating will not only damage NPS right-sizing initiative, more importantly, it will harm the 27,000 children you are supposed to be serving. Shame on you.
Kathy O'Hara.
School board members, Dr. Pohl, and attendees, my name is Kathy O'Hara. I'm here because citizens were robbed of the chance to weigh in on plans to terminate Dr. Sharon Birdsong's contract when the school board majority deliberately scheduled a vote for a meeting that didn't allow for public comment. I subsequently shared my concern on Mr. Inge's Facebook page. He responded this way: I encourage you to attend next week's meeting where there will be time for community input. Thank you, Mr. Inge, for inviting me to speak at a time which is figuratively like shutting the barn door after the racehorse has left the building. Those familiar with NPS politics know former board member Rodney Jordan and board members Tanya Bassine and Tiffany Buffalo have a long history of taking aim at the superintendent, kind of like hunters on a safari hoping to take down their quarry. When Mrs. DiCaligero and Mr. Inge joined the board, I was initially hopeful. I particularly looked to Mr. Inge to be a peacemaker. My optimism was short-lived. The ready, fire, aim approach of these 2 newbies has proved so disappointing. Mr. Inge describes himself as a fresh lens for NPS. Well, I beg to differ. He didn't bring a fresh lens to the table. He brought a trigger finger. In dog years, these 2 have been on the board for about 15 minutes. Despite their short tenure, they ignored the superintendent's impressive track record from successfully leading this school division through a pandemic to raising student achievement. As I hear, preliminary SOL results show gains in all 4 core areas. Claims of a commitment to transparency rang false when the 4-person majority blindsided Dr. Birdsong in a May 21st meeting with a surprise vote to disapprove key personnel recommendations. There has only been one logical action in all this: the interim choice. I worked with Dr. Pohl in Virginia Beach, and he is a solid educator. But the board majority ignored stakeholders who opposed termination. In a letter to the board, principals noted Dr. Birdsong had provided stability and leadership unmatched by any other previous superintendent. The teacher associations also voiced their unwavering support. The board majority discounted the will of the people and chose the power of 4 votes. The only thing that makes me think the Leopards might try to change some spots is they know they can't treat Dr. Pohl as miserably as they treated Dr. Birdsong because the spotlight is on them. And hopefully, a future election will change the makeup of this board because in this moment, it is a caricature of dysfunction at a time when children need to be uplifted. And how sad is that?
Michael Dyer.
Good evening, board members. My name is Michael Patrick Dyer. I do not have children going to school at Norfolk Public Schools. I am employed by Granby High School and by the United States Navy. I'm here to discuss the pay inequity issue, which has been ongoing with NJROTC teachers for the past year. As I'm sure you're aware, last year's school budget provided step raises for all full-time employees. Every full-time employee was to receive a 1, 2, or 3-step pay raise. This year, the school board approved the budget to provide a 1-step pay raise and a cost of living adjustment for a 4.5% increase. Sadly, none of the Navy JROTC teachers and NPS have received any of these raises. Although pay increases are always appreciated, I'm here tonight out of principle and fairness. I'm here to end the discriminatory pay practices towards NJROTC teachers. This Friday will mark the 1-year anniversary that I met with Dr. Agnew Scott to try to resolve this issue. But all I've received over the past year are excuses. One of the excuses I was given is that raises for NJROTC teachers weren't in the budget. However, a survey of all NJROTC teachers showed that the average annual pay provided by MPS to NJROTC teachers is $43,851. $16,237 less than a brand new teacher in NPS. This discrepancy in pay becomes even more pronounced when you consider that most teachers are 10-month employees and all NJROTC teachers are 12-month employees. We work many extra hours before and after school, throughout the summer, and on all the weekends, managing all aspects of the JROTC program, in addition to all the teacher responsibilities we have. This means that a brand new teacher in MPS will be paid $6,000 per month of employment, and the average NJROTC teacher will make less than $3,800 a month for per employment. As you might be aware, half of our salaries is paid by the Navy to MPS. This payment is not made so that MPS can hire teachers at a discount rate. It is paid because the Navy, we have responsibilities to the Navy. Unfortunately, MPS looks at our total salary and says that we are more than fairly compensated. In order to give the school board a better understanding of our Navy responsibilities, I have provided a brief summary of some of the many responsibilities we have to our other employee, the United States Navy. Because I feel pay inequity issues which are discriminate against NJROTC teachers, I'm asking for your assistance. I thank the board chair and I thank the board members, and I look forward to working with you to try to overcome this discriminatory practice as soon as possible.
Amanda Albert.
Hey there. I'm Amanda Brockman, and me and my husband are longtime residents of Norfolk. We absolutely love it here, and as we're kind of planning out our lives and looking to have kids, we would love to send them to Norfolk Public Schools. And so even though I didn't go to Norfolk Public Schools and my husband didn't either, he went to Chesapeake Public Schools, I've been tuning into school board and paying attention to what goes on. Historically, you know, Norfolk Public Schools have been a little bit maybe underprioritized or underfunded, but as you can see from the video, it seems like things are looking magnificent and we have a lot to be proud of, and a lot of that is thanks to Superintendent Dr. Birdsong. So I was a little disappointed to see that she was terminated. It seemed very out of nowhere, although from, I don't know, keeping track with what goes on here, I wasn't all that surprised. As some other people have mentioned, there's a culture of a little bit of bullying. I've seen bullying among people who are supposed to be colleagues, blindsiding the superintendent in meetings with surprise motions, stifling public opinion. It's just disappointing because, you know, when the election shifted from the city council appointing school board members to them being democratically elected, you know, you kind of think, dang, they're in my corner now because I'm electing them, and your job is to represent us and to represent what's best for kids, and it seemed pretty straightforward. So I'm just kind of confused as to why she was terminated. I'm not sure if maybe you got input from your constituents, or if you did terminate her. We'd like to know a reason why. You know, we elected you, right? So you represent us, and I think we're entitled to an explanation. And I'd like to keep an open mind for your motivations, but it's really hard to do that when I have no information. And so it's hard to see, you know, what appears to be without an explanation, just political dysfunction. And so, you know, a lot of my friends who are having kids, they're planning on moving to Virginia Beach, Chesapeake. That's not in the cards for us. We love it here, we're staying here, and we'd love to send our kids to Norfolk Public Schools. There's a lot to be proud of, but Dr. Birdsong did a phenomenal job. You know, she was so competent, and her 6-year tenure did so much for the schools. So I really do think that you owe us an explanation. I'm keeping an open mind to your reasoning, but without that, I'm looking forward to elections when we can unseat those who don't represent us. Thank you for your time, and happy Juneteenth.
Barrett Hicks. Barrett Hicks here. Barrett Hicks. Okay. Charlotte Smith Worley.
Dr. Pohl, members of the Community School Board. My name is Charlotte Smith Worley. I want to focus on the actions of the 4 members who formed the majority in this decision to terminate the superintendent. I urge you to take a moment of introspection, both individually and as a collective voting bloc, and consider the following points that define your approach. The 4 of you operate in a clique, consistently disregarding the input and perspectives of the other 3 members. This exclusionary behavior must change. Respect for collaboration and inclusivity is paramount in effective governance. You seem to be unable to take the high road. A glaring example is your failure to post a farewell message from Dr. Birdsong on NPS social media and the website. Her message was one of gratitude, devoid of negativity or personal attacks. There was no justification for withholding it. Professionalism demands that you rise above personal grievances and acknowledge exemplary service. Additionally, the City of Norfolk Council plans to honor Dr. Birdsong contributions with a resolution in their June 24th meeting. If anything, the acknowledgement from the City Council might serve as a critique of your decision from a higher level. At the very least, it should prompt serious reflection on the need for repairing your reputation. Begin by setting aside retaliatory inclinations and showing a degree of respect. It's a necessary first step. Third, your disregard for the law is evident. In your rush to terminate Dr. Birdsong, you neglected to first share any severance agreement publicly, therefore violating Virginia State Code 15.2-1510.1. This is illegal and questions your leadership. In conclusion, the broader community has found your action deeply objectionable. Moving forward will be impossible unless you learn to respect the governance team as a whole. Transparency, accountability, collaboration are not optional. They are essential to restoring credibility. I look forward to working with Dr. Pohl as he attempts to right the ship. Even as I share this advice with you 4, I remain skeptical that the change is possible under your current approach. Nevertheless, the choice to prove me wrong lies with you.
Debbie Forehand.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Pohl, and Norfolk citizens. My name is Debbie Forehand, and I'm a longtime advocate for more investment in Norfolk Public Schools. I stand here tonight saddened because the school board majority has damaged the reputation of this governance team to such an extent that our city government seems poised to advocate for returning to an appointed board. About 18 months ago, when I was serving as the president of my civic league, Mayor Alexander was our guest speaker. After his presentation, a small group of us expressed our concerns about the fractured state of the school board. The mayor agreed with our assessment and asked us if we would support an appointed school board. At the time, I wasn't ready to embrace that possibility. After all, a long string of appointed boards had underfunded the school board's CIP budget, and that's why so many Norfolk public school buildings are in deplorable shape. Fast forward to today, and I'm actually thinking an appointed board could be far better than what we have now. The board's unwarranted removal of a fine superintendent has been devastating to this community. Dr. Birdsong is an superior educator who led this school division through a pandemic and supervised the literal fight against learning loss, and successfully, I might add. It is no accident that immediately following the shameful vote, Vice Mayor Thomas posted this question on his Facebook page under a link of the pilot story of Dr. Birdsong's firing. I am hearing from more and more people that we should go back to an appointed school board in Norfolk. What are your thoughts? By the way, this post was also shared by Councilman Smeagol. The commentary has been lively. There are people who are disgusted with this current school board, but who feel the answer should be working to unseat the venal majority through the election process. There are others who feel a return to an appointed board could be a return to sanity, like this lady posted. She agreed 100%. As a 27-year veteran of NPS, I remember how our appointed board acted. They were professionals who could disagree and debate their sides of an issue without eye-rolling, snickering, and making rude faces. This board we have now is an embarrassment. The teachers make jokes about them like they are circus entertainment. I do want to thank Ms. Thomas, Dr. Martin, and Colonel Paulson for their votes against Dr. Birdsong's termination. I appreciate the fact you shine the light on the backroom politics involved in this decision. I am sorry you three are getting splashed by the mud of a vindictive decision carried out in such a hateful fashion. In closing, I haven't made up my mind. It's either lobby for an appointed board or support candidates who will run against the 4 people who don't deserve the title public servant. We do need to do something, and fast.
Yvonne Wagner.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, school board members, community leaders, members of the community. My name is Yvonne Wagner, 1100 Merrimack Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia, Broad Creek. I am a proud graduate of Norfolk Public Schools, and I am a former school member of an appointed school board. And I am here to tell you there was discord, and we didn't always agree on everything. And we had problems just like there are problems now. But we all need to understand that, and I hope that we are all here because we care about children. And that's what the main focus should be, not about getting somebody else because they did not agree with what you thought was right. I am here to applaud the 4 school board members who decided to do what is best for children as opposed to how somebody feels about them. My mother always told me there's always his story, her story, and the truth when it came to a relationship. Well, I'm in here to give you some cause and some truth. Dr. Birdsong and I have been together for a while. I knew her before I was on the board. When I worked in Norfolk Public Schools, I have been a school teacher. I have worked at HBCUs. I've been a vice president of HBCU. That's why I can applaud these individuals who actually did take the plunge and do what was necessary. The community has complained. I have probably talked to several members of the board and shared with them the concern of many members of the community as to what was going on in Norfolk Public Schools. It was so bad, I got so many calls because I was a board member and people continued to call me principals who were bullied. So I don't want to hear about bullying because the school system was led by fear. And I know this. I've been in the schools. I've been a long-term sub. It was so bad that Cynthia Watson, who was a principal at Booker T. Washington High School when it was booming, we got together and we said, let's go and talk with Dr. Birdsong and share with her the concerns of the community, several members of the community. We said, Mrs. Watson went and talked with her. She sat there for about 45 minutes to an hour, shared the concerns, and she said to us, I disagree. I disagree. I disagree the entire time. And it was almost like it was very condescending. I also talk with elected officials. They call me. We sat down and talked. Jackie Glass said, give her my name. I know that Benita Anthony talked with some. She would not meet with them. Dr. Birdsong would not meet with the elected officials. And I know this for a fact. And I can't believe it's over, but I'm not leaving. I'm going to finish. Our mayor set up a meeting with the elected officials, with Dr. Birdsong. She would not show up for that. There were problems with WHRO.
Sure.
When we do not have, when we have a superintendent who cannot partner with the members of the community and cannot partner, and I'm getting ready to leave, I know my time is up, but cannot partner with elected official people who give us money, the school board.
Ma'am, thank you for your time.
Thank you. It is time, it was time. Thank you so much. God bless America.
Keenan Baskerville.
And the data, we'll read the data.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Keenan Baskerville. I work as an organizer for New Virginia Majority on our education campaign. I'm here to ask you all how we can help advance your EELC programs to increase community and stakeholder engagement. As you know, I've been talking with parents, teachers, and community members since last April. All the while, I've been conducting a needs assessment of Jaycox's school community. This assessment examines issues within the community that would have the greatest impact on their lives if addressed. I currently have 265 responses. Responses taken in a multiple choice format from the following choices: before and after school care, mental health services, medical and dental support, tutoring and educational resources, food security, and housing support, with some additional room for a write-in just in case, if that didn't speak to a person's direct needs. Of those 265 responses, 199 or 75% of those responses, people said they would have a greater impact on their lives if their school had a before-school care program, something that I've been bringing up to this board for a while now. Moreover, the second highest is tutoring and educational resources, with 163 people saying that would have the greatest impact on them, or about 62%. I want to know what's the best way we can use and share this data with the board to help Norfolk Public Schools administration rectify and alleviate these hardships for families and help them get involved in a more democratic process to steer their schools' funds and resources for a better future. Jaycox is an EELC, which is a perfect testing ground for community engagement and resilience in a community in need of development. I'm willing to build with the board to reach the broader goal of higher quality early childhood education, schools that have the necessary instructional support and administration staff, and programs that provide additional funding to support low-income students. If you would like to talk with me at any other time, my email is kbask at new, that's N-E-W, Virginia, spelled all the way out, majority.org. Thank you.
Carl Poole.
Members of the board, Chair DiCalagero, Dr. Pohl, good evening. My name is Carl Poole, and I live here in Norfolk. I don't have children in NPS, but I began my own educational journey here. Now, I didn't come here to scold anyone tonight. Instead, I want to share with you about a conversation I had with a former Norfolk Public School Board member who sat where you did about a decade ago. They asked me, "Who do you think the superintendent works for?" I answered, "For the children, for parents, for the community." "Wrong," they replied. "A superintendent works for a school board. The board can hire and fire them." Then they asked, "Who do you think a school board works for?" I answered more slowly this time. "For the community?" "That's close," they told me. "A school board works for its constituency, the people who can vote them in or out of office." Understanding the relationships between these three is how you begin to understand how a school district works, how it really operates. Yesterday, I visited 11 different polling places across all 5 wards in Norfolk. I spoke with voters there. As they walked in to cast their ballots, some of them weren't so clear about who they were going to vote for, but they knew why they were voting, and they knew what was at stake. If you want to know how insightful the people of Norfolk are, spend some time in a polling place parking lot on Election Day. Your constituency is your greatest source of power, and it's your greatest source of wisdom. They've entrusted you to be the stewards of our public schools. I urge you, make good on the use of that trust. I'm not just talking about chatting up their votes. I'm talking about drawing on their experience, their insights, and their love for the children of the city. You've had some tough decisions to make so far this year. With August 1st fast approaching, harder ones are coming. Your constituents may not always agree with your decisions, and you won't always agree with each other. That's why it's so important to ground your choices. It's so important for your choices to be grounded in the wise counsel of the people who put you here. They are trusting you with these seats. Make sure you trust in them just as much. Thank you.
Mary Anna White. Mary Anna White.
Good evening. Dear Honorable Dr. Pohl and honorable members of the school board, I'm Mariana White, a teacher here in Norfolk and a member of the EAN. First of all, thank you for what you do in your pursuit of quality education for all our kids. I have 2 main concerns as we go forward in our community, both specifically in the schools, but also in Norfolk as a whole. The first is literacy, and the second is equity. I've heard 2 school board members talking about the need to reset, and that just really got me thinking, what are the basics? When we look at our students' potential and accomplishments, we need to start with reading skills. I would like to see the whole community come out and support the development of these kids. The parents, school staff, libraries, churches, community leaders, businesses, and civic organizations. Oh, I'm okay. We like to look at the schools and blame the schools for everything that's going on. But we're all part of this community together, and we need everybody helping. I'm going to go off script, hopefully not take too long. Poverty is traumatic, and we have to address that. So we need to set up tutoring and mentoring programs, especially in the schools with lower schools, with scores, and so that we can teach the kids to apply their reading skills and think critically. So I'd like to talk to you more about that later. Equally important is equity in the community as a whole and in our funding of the schools. Children and their families need to feel that they are valued in every part of our community. Can we reconsider how much we will spend on Maury while simultaneously planning to shut down so many of our elementary schools? That does not feel like equity. We've already shut down 4 schools in Ward 4. We also closed Coronado. Please hold multiple meetings so that our whole community can participate in the discussion. As we can contemplate hitting reset, I want us to decide as a community. We need to think about affordable housing. I see I have 18 seconds. Please do not continue to tear down buildings in our poorer neighborhoods. We need housing that people can afford. Our community needs to trust not only you, but the city council, and I'll be talking to them too, because I've been here 30 years and I love this city. So best of luck, and thank you all. Please slow down the pace of shutting down schools. Let's get the new superintendent who has knowledge of how that should work for the good of the whole community. Thank you so much.
Pastor Veronica Thomas.
Good afternoon. Giving honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the board and the acting superintendent, I give glory to the Lord who has blessed us to be here today. I believe that God does nothing haphazardly. Everything is intentional. About 3 weeks ago, we decided we were coming to the school board on the 18th, the Community Classroom Initiative. And we found out that our beloved superintendent was out last week. We were coming to let the board know and the community know what she has done for our children. She started the faith-based initiative, put Dr. White in place to carry it out. Yes, we had tutoring from faith-based people, but not in like we are in now. We are in the school system. We are in 8 particular schools. We work with Jaycox, Young, Ruffner, Boogerty, Monroe, Lindenwood. I think I got them all. If I don't, let me know. Oh, Academy, yes, yes. We do this because we love them. Let me tell you something that you need to know about. We started a program at Roster, Presbyterian School, where we brought in from all of the 5 high schools children who were called impaired. And we taught them how to cook. When they leave, we didn't want them to be on the couch. We wanted them to be productive. That's what we did. And Superintendent Birdsong came in to see what we were doing. We have community meals and message where we go in and work with every athletic department. And right now we are in Booker T and Lake Taylor. But this is what we do, and this is what she helped us to do. We are saying, do you know all surgeons that never lost a case? Do you know any lawyers that never lost a case? Nobody's 100% but Jesus. So I don't understand what the issue is. We all got issues. We all need to be encouraged, lift up, pray prayed for. That's what we're here for, to support. I'm not here to criticize anybody, but I want you to know that I'm supporting Superintendent Birdsong. Why? Because she support the children of Norfolk. It wasn't always convenient for her. It didn't always feel good, but she stood firmly against the schemes of the devil. And I'm telling you, that's who started this foolishness. We love our children, and we're going to stand by them. In the name, Lord Jesus. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen. We got some statistics coming up next and some testimony.
Eddie White, please.
I love you.
Good evening. My name's Eddie White. I don't have a child in Norfolk, and I'm not going to preach. I am part of the Community Classroom Collaborative, and I wanted to share some data with you to exemplify the impact that we've had in the schools. But it's critical that you keep in mind that numbers have names. I won't share those names, but any number that represents real people, real lives of students and parents. So we're active on multiple campuses from high school to elementary school in Norfolk Public Schools. But before I share some objective data, understand that we don't get to these numbers unless the faith-based initiative was started. And subsequently, the EELC was created. And what they did was they created an environment where principals, athletic directors, coaches, family engagement specialists fully believed that they could get into relationship with faith-based organizations. And I'll tell you, be mindful that there are a lot of school systems that don't have that same level of empowerment. Amen. So for youth programming, where we do character development, we use values-based leadership, we also do college and career mentorship, we found that the students who participated in 10 or more of our activities throughout the year, based on data from the school system, from beginning to the end of the year, had a 55% decrease in absenteeism. And they also had an 8.5% increase in GPA. And that's not from tutoring, that is from character, that is from values, from high character adults who are not told to hide their faith. They proudly take it into the space where they do the mill and message and they do the values-based leader discussion. At elementary and middle schools, we focus on parent programming to empower families, to build trust, and to grow hope. We do this through parent education and trauma healing, ultimately seeking to recreate the village. We have been active at PB Young since 2023, and the reason we started was from a request from the principal to faith-based partners. And she asked for help with parent behavior. So I was involved in this, and from our surveys I've been collecting, we've seen over the last year increase in parent confidence and improved listening skills. And in a recent meeting with the family engagement specialist, I was sharing that about 73% of the parents felt more comfortable with the staff. But then she went on to share this. She said that before we started, they had 9 parents banned, 25 on the to be banned warning list. A year after Parent Connection, they had about 10 parents banned, and about 5 banned, 10 on the warning list. This past year, they had 1 parent banned, 4 on the warning list. So you can see that there is a palpable change happening between the staff and the parents, and we thank you for your time.
Ron Atkinson.
Hello, family.
Hello.
Hey, Ron. Good evening to the board, stakeholders. My name is Ronald Atkinson. I live in Chesapeake. I have no children in Norfolk. They gave me the task of the team to put the faces and the stories behind the stats. I want to start with the parent. There was a parent that had a contentious relationship with the principal. Through Parent Connection, that was resolved. Not only was it resolved, but the parent went on to be named twice to the principal's honor roll 2 successive semesters. Let me give you a list of students for their stories. I want to read those so that I can be time efficient. Ruffner, Ruffner students who participated in values-based leadership small group this year, they asked us to come back next year because they are learning the importance of controlling their emotions, making better decisions, and avoiding escalation of conflicts. One girl said, "I stopped myself from putting my hands on a girl today when she offended me because of what we talked about. I just sat and looked at her instead of reacting." I had one of the coaches from Booker T said to me, "Ron, before meal in a message is we come in and we feed the athletes or whatever group that we're serving, and then we have a message and values." He said, "Ron, before you guys came in, I had 2 to 3 students making the honor roll." He said, "Since you've come in, I've had them 14 to 15. That's about a 300 to 4% increase. That's just on getting a child erected from the inside out." In my closing moments, I want to give this illustration. There was a park, a national park, and in this national park, they had some difficulty. And the difficulty was that the streams were drying up. So that means the vegetation wasn't being watered, the animals weren't being taken care of, and they couldn't quite figure it out. So what is the problem? But this was the problem. They attempted to take a space that was designed to give air to nations, but they wanted to make it convenient for the people. So what did they do? They took the predators out, the wolves. And when they took the wolves out, they took out the ecosystem. After decades of trying to figure out what the problem was, you know what they did? They didn't put a wolf back, they put a wolf pack back in. Because if you put a wolf back in, he's going to become the predator. Well, one of the things that I appreciate about the faith-based partnership is that a pack has been put back in. And when you put values in, people learn to live, learn, and lead from the inside out. They're not driven by tokens. They're not driven by carrots. They're driven by character. If you teach a genius math and science, but he has no character, he'll implode himself and everyone else around him. I thank you for your time.
James Parker.
Good evening, Norfolk School Board. My name is James Parker, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the Education Association of Norfolk. I stand before you this evening not just as a representative of our dedicated educators, but as a voice for thousands of students whose futures are shaped every day by the work done in our classrooms. Our educators work tirelessly, often going above and beyond their duties to provide a high-quality instruction, support students' emotional well-being, and create safe, nurturing learning environments for every child in Norfolk. They do this despite mounting challenges, staffing shortages, rising class sizes, outdated resources, and ever-increasing expectations. Tonight, I want to address a matter that weighs heavily on many of us. The educators and the broader community deserve clarity and transparency regarding the termination of Dr. Sharon Birdsong. The decision appeared rushed and lacked explanation and has left many serious concerns. We're demanding clear and specific reasons behind her removal. Silence only breeds mistrust. As Dr. Pohl steps into the role of interim superintendent, we urge him and the school board to lead with collaboration, transparency, and a firm commitment to centering the voices of those on the front line, educators, students, and families. We are facing serious challenges: declining enrollment, ongoing staff shortages, and a deeply controversial conversation around potential school closures. These are not just operational decisions, they are community decisions, as they must not be made without the meaningful involvement of those most affected. The Education Association of Norfolk remains steadfast in our commitment to fighting for fully funded schools and truly community-centered public education system. We look forward to working with the interim Superintendent Pohl to build a stronger, more equitable future for every student. But let me be clear, we will not hesitate to hold leadership accountable for decisions that harm our schools, our educators, or our community. Our voices matter, and we will not be silenced. Thank you.
Catherine Towler.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Chairman of the School Board, Superintendent, school board members, school board senior leaders, community, and friends. I've heard a lot this evening, and I've been saying for 10 years now, we've been coming to the school board meetings because of conditions at Booker T. Washington High School for 10 years. In this setting, I see a great divide. Not only is maybe the school board divided, but it was divided before too. It just happens that it has flipped. But it was divided before the last 10 years, it was divided. And as long as you were getting what you wanted, you really didn't care what was happening to the rest of the children and families in the city. The city is divided. If we're honest, the country is divided, and we all know that. So it is time to stop contributing to the problem and look for the solutions. I'm faith-based as well. At the Garden of Hope, Gethsemane Community Fellowship works tirelessly with the city of Norfolk and Norfolk Public Schools. Matter of fact, I'm proud to say that we have the only in-person GED ABE class in the city of Norfolk in the morning at Gethsemane. The doors are open. We don't ask you to pay a penny. They give resources. They give, you name it. If they need it, they're writing the checks at Gethsemane. All we have to do is ask. And not only that, we're saying we have the capacity to do more because there's a poverty issue in this city. And we have a very limited adult education budget. Please help us to do more because we need it in our cities. In our city, the children need it. I'm a proud retiree of Norfolk Public Schools. Proud graduate of Booker T. Washington. And I did not live on the west side. I lived in a house that never had hot water. I graduated in 1969. But today I have a daughter who is pursuing her doctorate in nursing and a son who's a colonel in the U.S. Army. Because of Booker T., because there were caring people. Not that we had a whole lot, but there were enough people who cared. And I don't see enough caring in our city. I thank you, Ms. Bercy. I've watched you. I know your heart is for the children, always has been, even when you've had to stand alone. Ms. Buffalo, I know it wasn't easy. Ms. Martin, I know you're for the children. I don't know Ms. Thomas yet. I don't know the rest of you yet. But please work together. Godspeed. We need an effective leader. We need community-minded leadership, servant leadership, visionary leadership, the right leader.
Thank you for your time.
For each assignment. We are all in this together. Godspeed in the next school year. And we must move forward.
Archie Bacon.
Good evening. I am Archie Diane Winfield Bacon, a proud 1968 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. Booker T. Washington High School. John T. West High School, one of Virginia's first accredited public high schools for African Americans, was renamed in 1917 for Booker T. Washington, educator, author, and orator. The school moved to a newly constructed building in 1924, and for decades was Norfolk's only public high school for Black students. Its programs were central to the community. In 1939, 1940, faculty members Aileen Black and Melvin Austin pursued legal action that led to a federal court decision requiring salary equalization for Black and white teachers. In September 1963, students marched to protest poor facilities. Norfolk implemented a desegregation plan in 1970, and the school moved into a new building here in 1974. I have just shared with you the words written on the Booker T. Washington School's historical highway marker, located on the corner of Virginia Beach Boulevard and Park Avenue in our city of Norfolk, Virginia. This marker stands proudly along with other notable historical highway markers throughout the city of Norfolk. Markers such as MacArthur Memorial, birthplace of naval aviation, and the Addicts Theater. I am before you today to express the extreme importance of keeping Booker T. Washington High School open with quality educational curriculums and programs for students in the city of Norfolk. Let the legacy live on. Thank you.
Leisha Harold. Says Leisha Harold. Okay. Dr. Gardinell Green? Is that correct? Okay. They can join you. Mm-hmm.
Name is Dr. Gardinella Green. I do not have a child in Norfolk Public Schools. I represent Norfolk Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and our purpose here today is a part of our annual visit to the school board as part of our chapter's social action agenda. Good evening, distinguished school board members and distinguished guests. I rise today proudly representing the Norfolk Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated as chapter president. I'm joined by my lovely sorors who are here today dressed in red. Would you please stand? As many of you know, Delta Sigma Theta is a public service sorority founded on the principles of sisterhood, scholarship, service, and social action. And here in the city of Norfolk, we have embodied those values with intention, consistency, and impact. Our chapter is composed of women who serve Norfolk as fierce and passionate educators, community leaders, and advocates, many of whom are proud parents, aunties, and caretakers of Norfolk Public School students. We are deeply embedded in the fabric of this city, and we are committed to making it stronger. In the spirit of our ongoing commitment to service, we are proud to share that in just this year alone, the Norfolk Alumni Chapter has contributed over $40,000 in economic impact to the local community without any foundational funding. This figure does not include the countless hours of in-kind service and non-cash donations generously provided by our members. Our support to Norfolk Public Schools over the past year has included participation in Read Across America Day, stocking the Little Free Libraries, donating cleaning supplies and school supplies, providing headphones, donating school uniforms, and we are especially proud to have awarded $25,000 in scholarships this year to outstanding students in Norfolk Public Schools. Notably, all of our 2025 scholarship recipients have chosen to attend historically black colleges and universities. In addition to the financial awards, we've also provided laptops and book stipends, ensuring our scholars are equipped for success both inside and outside the classroom. On behalf of our chapter members, we are so grateful that you've allowed us here tonight as part of our social action agenda. We deeply appreciate and respect your service to our school district, and we stand ready and committed to continue critical projects and programmings that make a difference in the lives of the students and staff of Norfolk Public Schools. And the two students, which are scholarship recipients, would like to say a few words.
I'm sorry, we are out of time.
Can they say their names?
Yeah, please say your names.
And I will be attending Norfolk State.
Great.
Cameron Gallup, I graduated from Norview High School.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. Sonia Morton O'Keefe? O'Keefe. Okay, thank you.
I apologize because I might have chosen the wrong day to come.
You're fine.
Because I don't want to talk about Dr. Birdsong. I want to talk about Ruffner. I was hired by Dr. Dillard. For some of you who've been here for a long time, you might remember Dr. Dillard. She welcomed me here to Norfolk from my hometown of Charlottesville, Virginia. I was afraid, but she welcomed me, and I felt home here and have ever since. I decided to take a job at Ruffner under Cynthia Watson. She taught me everything about the field of teaching. How to dress, how not to dress.
Oh, yeah.
She stood at the door every morning and watched from your shoes to your head to make sure that you were intact. And trust and believe me, if you were not, you went home. She said, I got your class until you come back. But I'm here today because since '99 until 2025, things have changed drastically at Ruffner. I met two board members on the NFT cruise. And the first thing I introduced myself as Sanjay Morton Okereke. I then asked them, are you aware of what's going on at Ruffner? And they looked, somewhat. But I don't think any of you know that our children there at Ruffner are being jeopardized every single day. Why? The fighting, the walking in the halls, disrespecting teachers. I've been pushed down, I've been kicked, I've been knocked down the steps, you name it, it has happened to me. Then all of a sudden, I decide to speak up for myself. I don't feel safe in this building anymore. That's what I told, spoke up proudly. Well, what happened after that? Retaliatory actions were placed against me. Once, twice, 3 times. Put on administrative leave with pay. From October until March 6th, when I was given the choice to either resign, retire, or to be terminated. Now, you're not talking about an ordinary teacher. You're talking about a darn good teacher. When creativity was allowed, you wasn't permitted to read by script. You taught, and that's what I have done, and I have shown my kids love, sometimes in a harsh way, but in a meaningful, caring way. I'm here, I know my time is up, but all I want to say before I go, please, school board members, investigate. Investigate. Because Ruffner School can be great again like it once was when I first started. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Sharon Houston.
Sister Whitney.
I'm Sharon Houston, and I volunteer at Ruffner 8 hours a day. Don't have any kids, but I am a grandparent in school. Over the past 20 years, I have watched Norfolk Public School repeat the same cycle. And while we can all offer reason and justification for our actions, today I urge each of us to pause and say, I can do better. Because the truth is, our children need all of us to do better. We need a school board that is not waiting on a miracle, but is equipped with the capacity, relationships, and skill set to leverage resources from the city, businesses, community organizations, and to meet the school needs. We need a superintendent who will accept nothing less than excellence, one who will boldly advocate for every school, every need, every child. We need a visionary leader who will walk the halls, observe with their own eyes, and understand the reality on the ground. We need principals who are strategically placed, principals who are the right fit for the student, their community, and their school culture. And they must be held accountable for the success of their schools. No excuses, no blame game. We need teachers who are not just present but committed. We need professionals who honor the call of education, teachers who uphold standards in how they teach, speak, carry themselves. Every staff in the school building should operate professionally, not children, dress professionally, speak like leaders, lead by example, and when standards are not met, we need accountability, systems that work, because too many schools are falling short on professionalism. We need community to show up. Volunteers in every part of the school, cafeteria, classroom, hallways, the front office, the guidance suites, everywhere. And we need parents to be parents, to set standards in their homes, send your children to school, hold them accountable for their behavior, attend the school events, build early respectful relationship with the teachers, partner with the school for success of your child. Let's not spend the next 6 months fighting over one decision. Let's channel all of this energy into action. Let's join the west side with the east side, the north side with the south side. Let's come together learn from our past, but most importantly, let us move forward in purpose. See y'all in the hallway.
You corrected the number, and it was 19 speakers, and this concludes our speakers for this evening.
Agenda item 4.07, approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Already got it.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Dr. Martin has put forward the motion, and Mr. Inge has seconded it. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Kinge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Polson?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye. Okay. Agenda item 6.01, Clifton Larson audit review. Mr. Jenkins and Ms. Amos.
I'd like to introduce Sherry Amos. She was the lead auditor for us for this past year.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Amos. I'm a principal with Clifton Larson Allen. We are the audit firm that audited the fiscal year 2024 financial statements for the school system. I'm here to provide some required communications to the board as dictated by auditing standards. The financial statements for fiscal year 2024 are prepared by management. They are the responsibility of management for preparation and selecting the accounting policies included within those statements. My responsibility as the auditor is to provide the 3-page audit opinion that starts on page 1 of the financial statements. And I'm pleased to indicate that we issued an unmodified audit opinion this year, which is a good or a clean audit opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that I can provide the board that the financial statements are not materially misstated. The financials are quite lengthy. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to review them, but I always recommend that at the very least, that the board look at the management and discussion and analysis section. Starts on page 5 of the financial statements, provides a really good overview of the fiscal year 2024 financial information, provides some commentary for the changes in the numbers from year to year, and is a good overall synopsis for you to look over. There are certain accounting estimates in the financial statements related to liabilities for other post-employment benefits and incurred but not reported claims for insurance purposes. These are actuarial evaluations in which the school system engages an actuary to perform those valuations. We look at those valuations from the actuaries, including the underlying data submitted to the actuary to make sure it is reasonable and accurate, and look at the assumptions and inputs that go into those valuations to ensure they are either in accordance with accounting standards or that they're reasonable considering the industry that you're in. And we had no issues with those estimates, but they are estimates and subject to change in the future. These estimates are normal for a school system such as yourself, including a local government. They're consistent with prior years, so there's nothing crazy related to that, just something I'm required to report. We did have a delay in the completion of our audit this year. Typically, the audit is completed in the fall timeframe and issued no later than December 15th. This year, the audit was issued March 11th, 2025. Audit delays due to the significant turnover in the finance department. While the school system does not have a statutory deadline to complete their financial statements, due to the significance of the school system to the city of Norfolk, their financial information is included in the city of Norfolk's financial statements, and the delay in issuing the school system financials resulted in the city missing their regulatory deadline of December 15th last year. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. We did not have any uncorrected misstatements. We did have one material corrected misstatement that was detected as a result of our audit procedures. There was a grant that was received from the Commonwealth of Virginia. The funds were received ahead of time and revenue was recorded. However, there was no eligible expenditures in fiscal year 24 against that revenue, so it should have been unearned revenue. And so that adjustment was made in the financial statements as part of the audit. And we also did have a restatement to fiscal year 2024 financial statements as well. And I'm going to pivot over. That's part of a greater finding. We had 3 findings as far as the audit's concerned for material weaknesses and internal control. The first finding is related to capital assets, and that was part of that was related to the restatement we had. The school system typically receives their funding for capital projects from the city of Norfolk. When that occurs and those projects are closed out, whether it be a new school or renovations, those assets go on the city's financial statements. However, in fiscal year 23, there was funding that the school system used for HVAC improvements from the ESSER grant funding from the federal government. And therefore, those assets, once they were completed, those projects completed, should have been put in service and put on the school system's financial statements. However, they were not. So we had to restate the financial statements for roughly about $12.4 million for fiscal year 23. In addition, in fiscal year 24, there was capital projects that were related to funding receiving from the city of Norfolk that the school systems did not properly report to the city, so the city could include those in their financial statements. So we had to make some adjustments at the end of the year or at the end of the audit period to make sure that the city was properly picking up those capital assets that were funded by the school systems, or by the city, excuse me. So we just recommend that the school system make sure that they're properly tracking the capital projects each year, know the funding sources of those projects, and make sure they're properly accounting for them, whether they are closed out onto the city's books or the school system's books. Our second finding was a material weakness related to financial reporting. This was related to the delay in the audit and the issuance of the financial statements. We also had inconsistent and inaccurate financial statements with frequent discrepancies and errors, which indicated that there was a lack of proper review of the financial statements before they came to us as the auditor. We are not, as an auditing firm, internal control for the school system. The school system should have those on staff that can properly review the financial statements and detect the errors if there are any, and make sure that they're prepared in accordance with standards before they get to us as the auditing firm. So in addition, I mentioned the $13 million adjustment for the grants as well, as detected as part of the audit. So this finding is related to financial reporting, and we just recommend that there's policies and procedures in place to make sure that there's accurate and timely completion of the financial statements. And the last comment we had was a material weakness related to account reconciliations. Due to the significant turnover in the accounting department, bank reconciliations and general ledger accounts were not reconciled on a timely basis. Just to give you a flavor, the June 24 bank reconciliations were not provided to us until January of 25, which is over 6 months after the month end, and they included unreconciled differences as well. In addition, the school system is required to submit the annual school report to the Commonwealth Auditor of Public Accounts by September 30th. That report was not submitted till November 1st. And then once that report was submitted, there was numerous adjustments to the general ledger as they were closing out everything for the audit. So at the end of the day, that school report submitted in November did not reconcile back to the final financial information of the school system. And then lastly, there was a new procedure in place for the Commonwealth Auditor of Public Accounts related to making sure the school system reviewed and confirmed bank account balances reported to the Commonwealth Treasurer, and that was not performed either for fiscal year 24. So we recommend that the school system make sure that they are timely reconciling bank accounts and general ledger accounts and reviewing any unreconciled differences and researching, investigating, and correcting them timely. If those are not done timely, they add up and they snowball, and it ends up being harder to research and investigate at the end of the day, and make sure that they are tracking any changes to the Commonwealth's laws and regulations and making sure that all reports are submitted on time and reconciled to the financial statements. And with that, I will open up to any questions you might have.
Madam Chair.
Any questions?
I apologize, I talk fast.
Ms. Massey?
Thank you so much for your presentation and review of the audit report. And I hope you'll bear with me. I do serve on the audit committee, and we've met via Zoom along with Mrs. Moore Buffalo. So welcome tonight. I do also want to acknowledge that our committee unfortunately was not able to get together to review these findings before tonight. So some of my questions are related to the audit itself, and the process, and what then can be done about the findings that are in this report. And so I'm going to start at the beginning. So in the beginning, I believe you mentioned that this was an unmodified, clean audit. So with the number of findings and the significance of the findings in here, how does a school division get a clean audit? Can you better explain what that actually means?
Sure. So one thing to keep in mind is that we do have a materiality in our audit. So I think I highlighted that the financial statements were not materially misstated. So that's one thing to keep in mind when it comes to an unmodified audit opinion. We did note and make corrections. As I said, we did have the correcting entry related to the grants. So there were some audit adjustments that were made to make sure that the information in the financial statements was materially accurate. So that's how we were able to get to the clean opinion. The findings that we reported are more related to policies and procedures and the keeping of the records, and could potentially lead to misstatements if not corrected. That's why we're bringing them to the attention in future audits, so to speak. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So I guess that totally answers my question, because I was going to ask this next part would be then the significance of the impacts that may occur as a result of the findings that you've listed here. And, the third part of that is, what do you recommend? I mean, you've put your recommendations in the audit report, but how do we ensure accountability around those recommendations are put in place? So would they be, for instance, part of the audit next year to ensure that these policies are in place? Is that something that you would recommend we, follow up on, that we include? And
So it is up to management to determine how they want to implement corrective action plan. I always say, and maybe not with these findings, but there's always a cost benefit to a corrective action plan. Sometimes the cost of putting in controls or policies, procedures might outweigh the end result of correcting the findings. I don't know that I think that's the case with these findings specifically, but those are all management decisions to make with the oversight of the board. We would obviously look at them next year to see if there's any corrective action taken, and then adjust our audit plan accordingly, depending on what that corrective action was for next year.
okay. Great, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for a thorough review. I look at audits every day in my professional capacity, so just bear with me on my few questions I have for you. So just going through, you had stated the delay was due to the turnover in the finance department, and so we missed the deadline, and that caused the city of Norfolk to miss the deadline as well, correct? Are there any penalizations or anything?
So the school system does not have a compliance deadline specifically, so there were no penalties for you all. It was just the domino effect of the city actually having a statutory deadline of December 15th, which is in Commonwealth Virginia law, and they missed it, waiting for the school system's financial statements to be completed and incorporated into theirs.
Got it. So the state has a law that's on the books that the city has to turn in their audit, and then we contribute the audit to the city.
Correct.
And we delayed in that audit, which in turn, in a way, violated the law.
It caused the city
It
to,
caused
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure I'm understanding and picking up what you're putting down. All right, my next question that I did have, so you said lack of proper review and policies and procedures. Is this something that you usually see in school systems? In your normal daily practice as an auditor?
At times, I mean, I will say it is pretty common right now for there to be a lot of turnover in accounting departments and not only K through 12 school systems, but government in general right now. We kind of joke that actually my team's actually the more consistent team in a lot of respects for my clients versus the staffing at the client level. So we are seeing more findings, I think, increase over the past couple of years due to a lot of the turnover and loss of institutional knowledge in many respects. So I'm not saying it's the case here, but in a lot of places there's a lot of retirements and things of that nature, and you're losing a lot of institutional knowledge. So when that happens, it's not necessarily uncommon to have similar findings.
Got it, okay. And then also.
Not uncommon to have delays in the audit either as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Got you. No, you're perfectly fine. Definitely understand a delay there. So make sure I got my dates correct here. So I got June 2025, the account and reconciliation ledger.
So the bank reconciliation?
Yes.
So for the bank reconciliation for June 30,
Maybe that is an
2024 was provided to us in January of 2025.
Oh, so
January.
June of 2024, and then provided to you almost six months
later.
6 months later. Is that a normal practice?
No, usually best practice is 30 days within month end.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Okay. And many of these things that in the material weaknesses that you have, that you've stated in your findings, are these things that are mostly contributed to management and oversight? Excuse me.
I think it was to the significant turnover that had occurred.
Okay.
That's what we saw.
Awesome. That's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Agenda item 6.02, the monthly financial report. Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, Chair Thomas, Dr. Paul, This evening, I'll review the financial report for the month of May. This report covers 11 months of the fiscal year, which started July 1st, almost a year ago. As with previous reports, this one reflects activity from July to the last day of May, and also records that were recorded as of June 9th. So if something came in on the 10th, and it's for May, it's not actually in the report because it wasn't available. The general fund collections during the 11 months available balances from the previous year totaled $423 million, and that's 89% of the $475 million budget, our general fund budget. During the same period, we expended or encumbered $430 million, which is 90.5% of the budget. For comparison for the previous 2 years, spending was ranged between 90% and 91.5% of the budget, so very similar. You'll find there were 2 budget transfers recorded during the month of May that exceeded $50,000. The first was to transfer $220,000 from the replacement of food service equipment to the food account. This was necessary to address the rising cost of dairy products. The second budget entry transferred $281,500 from the budget for instructional funds for compensation to the student transportation account for fuel. The entry was required because the fuel costs have outpaced our budget plans. Savings in the instructional wage accounts are resulted from vacancies of staff. Chairwoman DeCollegiero, that concludes my comments for the month of May. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Are there questions? Ms. Lucine?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. If we could go to first, if we could go to page 2, is it typical, well, I know we haven't quite seen this, but I want to be sure that this is marked correctly. The revenues minus expenditures, we have expended more than we have brought in, correct? Is that?
At this point in time, it's not unusual. It's pretty typical.
Okay.
The biggest issue is that we record sales tax revenue 2 months in arrears. So sales tax revenue for the last 2 months won't come in until August, for instance. That'll be booked against the previous year. So we're for sales taxes and many other revenues, we're really on a cash basis. We're recording as the funds come in. I will also say that from a cash standpoint, we've actually paid out far less than we've expended or encumbered. We haven't paid the encumbrances because we haven't received the products, but also teacher pay is spread over 12 months, whereas the teachers work over 10. So from a cash standpoint, we are fine.
Okay. And then related to the budget transfers, so last year at this time, the same period, we had about $10 million in budget transfers in the month of June. And given, I think our budgeting strategy has been similar. Is there, I mean, we don't have quite as much budget transfers this year. Can you describe what that might be attributed to?
The budget transfers last year?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to do that.
Okay. If you could follow up. I was just curious if, since that amount and what we see here at 500,000 is.
Expected there were, as you get closer to the end of the year, counts normally, it's not unusual for the budget transfers to increase because you're at the end of the year. So there's more accounts that are running into the red.
Right. Okay, I was just comparing this period last year to this year. So if you could look into that,
I really can't say how much we would have in the month of June.
Okay.
There was a question you had, if I could, last month that I failed to get back with you on. You had a question about classroom instruction and contract services.
Right.
There's an account that's $1.6 million overspent.
Right.
That is related to university instructors. I believe that we have more encumbered than we needed to, and that the account will be closer to in balance at the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you for following up on that.
Other questions? Got it.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Inch?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Jenkins. Quick question, bless you. I'm looking through the expenditures. It's like when the state does bonuses for teachers, is that included in this?
No, it is not. We did receive a payment from the state Department of Ed for, I believe it was $2.6 million. Actually, it's in their budget.
Okay.
That we're going to review in a few minutes. We received that, I believe, they told us we were going to get it on June 2nd, so I guess that's when they sent it. I do know we have received it, and the superintendent has recommendations for that in next year's budget.
Okay. So that $2.6 million that's been received from the state, is that solely for teacher bonuses?
The state funded, well, not exactly. The state funded bonuses for all standards of quality positions, which does include some support staff. However, we have far more staff members than the state sent a $1,000 bonus for.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
If I could, Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce Anthony Starks, our new Chief Finance Officer. I believe he is.
Hey.
Hello there, Mr.
Welcome.
Starks.
He'll be taking over next month.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for your service.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adopt the monthly financial report subject to audit?
I move that we accept the monthly financial report subject to audit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Tiffany Moore Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Dr. Martin has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inch?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Polson?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye. The motion is approved. Now, moving on to agenda item 6.03, School Board Operating Budget for School Year 25-26. Mr. Jenkins.
Yes. Refer to you to the PowerPoint. We have a number of revisions in the budget. The first are related to revenue. There has, let me just kind of give a little background. Dr. Birdsong had presented a budget, I believe, in early February to you. You reviewed that. You adopted a recommendation. I believe you adopted the budget as recommended by Dr. Birdsong in March. At that point, it goes over to the city. The city reviews all of the city government, including funding for schools, and makes funds available based on their resources, and in their case, based on a revenue sharing policy that was adopted by City Council. So we have additional funds, more funds available now than we realized when the budget was presented to you in February. So city revenue has increased by $3.05 million. That's directly related to I guess a new estimate of this amount of city revenue that would be available. The city's revenue policy makes 29.5% of local revenues, local tax revenues available to the school district. So there is more city revenue available. The General Assembly also passed a budget which was different from the one that was recommended by Governor Youngkin. The budget that was presented to you in February was based on the governor's recommendation. So there were increases of $10.3 million in state revenue. And then there's one that kind of slid. The reversion funds are estimated at $10 million when the budget was presented to you in February. The actual numbers came in about $3.5 million less. So we have a net increase in available revenue of $9,830,000. Next screen, it's a little busy, but these are the recommendations in a nutshell of what to do with the $9.83 million. Firstly, we can see that successful hiring initiatives have reduced the amount of attrition and vacancies in our staff, and we make estimates of how much attrition we can expect in the budget. So we're bringing that down a bit by $3.75 million. The bonus that you just mentioned, Mr. Ng, $2.69 million we did receive, in that we're recommending that those funds be used next year towards a bonus for all employees. Fortunately, it's not going to, the governor had recommended $1,000 for all standards of quality, all positions funded under standards of quality. Our estimates are that we would have approximately 600, maybe a little more, per position available to distribute, and that is before taxes. So after-tax amount would be less than that. But the recommendation to you is to provide, to use that $2.69 million of state money that we did not include in our budget and did not expect, but to use those funds towards providing a bonus to all employees who return from fiscal 25, this current year, so people who renew their contracts. The third item is to increase funding for the summer school program. I think this was probably we should have budgeted more for summer school than we did, largely because much of the summer school costs for the last several years have been covered but with federal ESSER funds, and we needed to beef it up. So we are recommending adding $1.11 million to the summer school budget. There is an increase in the debt service that the city is holding back, and that's part of the revenue sharing policy. They're making more money available to us through the revenue sharing, but they're going to withhold a little bit of it, in this case almost $600,000 for debt services. And this is related to a 2-cent reservation on the property tax rates. So they made their estimate of property tax collections is a little higher, so they're withholding a little more for the 2-cent portion that goes to debt service. We had recommended I think it was a 2.9% bonus to employees who were at the top of their pay scale, 2.5. Okay, there was a bonus of, thank you, 2.5%. So we are recommending a 4.5% pay raise instead of the bonus. So the employees at the top of the pay scale would receive pay raises similar to the rest of the staff. And the bonus would come off, or the previously recommended bonus. $450,000 to hire 10 additional special education teachers based on the demands in the schools.
These are teacher assistants, not teachers.
Did I say, I beg your pardon, yes, teacher assistants. Increase the number of classes for the 3-year-old preschool program, $440,000, an increase for that. And then last, there's a couple of issues, building insurance and business applications. We need to true those up a bit. So that totals $9,830,000, which is the same as the increase in revenue. So our current budget, $167,750,000. The city of Norfolk adopted a budget which provides $170.8 million. I misstated. These are the revenues from the city of Norfolk. So the revenue coming from the city of Norfolk goes from $167.75 million to $170.8 million, an increase of $3.05 million. So that's the source of the city revenue. State revenue, we saw an increase of $7.26 million in SOQ funding, standards of quality. Almost $4.5 million is related to increases in basic aid. This is primarily related to funding a greater number of support positions. That was an amendment. Special education funding, $1.42 million, increase of $1.33 million in at-risk funds, and then the compensation supplement or the bonus that was distributed. Excuse me, no, that's not it. The bonus was 2.69, the next item. There was an adjustment in the amount that would be available for pay raises of $270,000. Then the next item was $2.69 million for the standards quality bonus that we've spoken about, a small increase in the funding for the preschool initiative. So total increases in state revenue were $10.3 million. Turn the thing off. Thank you. Hit the wrong button, I'm sorry. Finally, we have a revised reversion funding. We had originally estimated 10, it's actually 6.5, so we reduced available resources by $3.5 million. So this is what the revenue budget looks like before and after. You can see that Commonwealth of Virginia provides the largest single amount of funding, $263 million, increase of $10.3 million for the budget amendments, bringing the total to almost $274 million. City of Norfolk is the next largest provider, and that's going up, as I said, $3.05 million. Most of the others are staying the same, with the exception of the reversion, which is going down. So our total budget, our total revenue that we're expecting next year will go from $450 million as originally proposed to $460 million. On the spending side, again, the total budget will go from $450.15 million to just over $460 million. Most of the revision is in the instruction category. That's where most of our budget is. And I believe that was about over 90% of the revision was for the instructional accounts. Smaller adjustments in transportation, maintenance, facilities, and technology. Now, kind of shift gears. So that was all the operating budget. Now, if again, we can talk about the capital budget. This is the capital budget that was presented to you earlier. The building program for Maury, $291 million. All of these amounts are in thousands. This is what we had recommended. There was also money recommended for replacing heating and ventilation systems. Some money for windows and doors in future years, electrical upgrades in the current and future years, and then you can see the other items. So that's what was requested, total $329 million over 5 years. City Council has released their capital improvement budget, of which we are a part. So they're spreading the funding for Maury over 3 years, and they're also reducing the total available to $220 million. That is under design at the moment, so we don't have exactly what the impact is, but I think our architects are sharpening their pencils, but that's yet to be determined. There's a reduction the other improvement plans are being reduced from $21 million to just under $4 million, and that's based on money that the city's making available from revenue sharing and other areas. The revenue sharing is actually the excess funds that the city received during fiscal '24 last year that is made available to us under the revenue sharing plan. Policy of the council. And later in your agenda, there are 2 items, one of which deals with requesting this funds from this city. Capital improvement plan after all the adjustments, you can see that's $202.95 million. So it's down from 329 in total over the 5 years. The biggest item, you see the rebuilding plan for Maury, $170 million, does not include money that the city has already funded in previous years. So that project total is $220 million, over, including previous funding. We're recommending upgrades and renovation of restrooms at Booker T. Washington in fiscal 26 of $3.76 million. Some interior wall work in a couple of schools of $183,000, and replacement of some school buses of $1 million in fiscal 26. So total budget, capital budget for fiscal 26 of $16,451,000. In future years, those plans will be revisited based on funding available from the city. Items that we did not, or that we had to drop from our plans for the capital included upgrades at Chesterfield Elementary for the electrical system, renovating a pool at Camp Young, some heating and cooling replacements at Easton, Lake Taylor, Chesterfield, and Madison Alternative Center, and W.H. Taylor. So some HVAC projects get put off. So, across all funds, our total budget is presented on this page. So you see our general fund budget, $460 million. Our food service budget is not changed, $26.9 million. Grants and special programs do not change. That's $42,837,000. And the capital projects for the first year goes from $253 million to $16,451,000. So the total $546.247 million. Our recommendation is that you adopt the budget with amendments as presented here.
Questions?
I have a statement. How would our budget be affected with the extra money we're gonna have to pay out by adjusting the interim, his pay for the superintendent not being here, and we have to continue to pay her for the next year. Then also, when we do find a superintendent, we will have to pay them. So where does that money come from?
We will, there are a few, very few, and small amounts of contingencies that we would have available. We likely will have to rely on vacancy savings, and it is possible that we will have to forego some plans in the operating budget. But I'm really not prepared to say specifically how we will do that, but we will have to come to terms with that over the next 12 months, yes.
Mr. Inge.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for the presentation. So just to piggyback off of my vice chair, so I know the previous superintendent had proposed, I think, maybe $150 million or $150,000 or $250,000 for legal services, contracted legal services.
I don't have that before me. I'm sure that we have
it was
funds
presented in the
for legal
original
services.
It was $250,000.
It was $250,000? Okay. All right. So then that money could potentially, if it was available, it could potentially take care of any additional pay that we may have to pay out.
We do have legal outside counsel, so I expect that we will use some of that. But yes, the city attorney's office certainly picks up most of our legal work, but we typically have some in addition to the city attorney's office.
Okay. And my next question, so I know in the previous proposed budget prior to today, it was a 4.5% increase for all employees with the exception of those who are at the highest pay grade, correct?
That is correct.
So now what we're doing is we're making sure that every Norfolk Public School employee is getting a 4.5%
I
raises.
believe, I'm not sure that that is a correct statement. I think the raises are averaging 4.5%.
Well, okay, got it.
Depends on where exactly on you, I think it will depend on where you are in the scale. We try to get people around the 4.5, but I won't say that everybody's getting exactly that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Ms. Pussy.
Okay. Mr. Inch, were you finished?
Yeah, yes, for
Okay.
now.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. So building on what Mr. Inch's question around that, so for me anyway, when we saw the budget presentation before, it was the understanding that, and I know the former superintendent clarified that at a May meeting, but it was the understanding that it was 4.5% salary increase, and what I thought was also a 2.2% bonus. And so now with this revision, it is a 4.5% salary increase for all employees at the top of the scale. But you're saying it's really an average of 4.5%. Am I hearing you correctly?
The calculations for folks that were at the top of the scale is 4.5%, but I believe that the budget across all employee groups averages 4.5%.
All right, so that's a little bit different in our understanding of what was being proposed.
Yeah.
And I think that's been, for me anyway, my part of my hesitation is the lack of clarity on what it is that we are proposing.
If I may, could I ask Ms. Skinner to come forward?
What?
This is Crystal Skinner. She's our budget director. And she's the one who put the budget together and has done a very great job, and she'll know exactly what the answer is. I believe I'm right, but would you speak?
You are correct. Good evening. So it is an average of 4.5%, but with the caveat that it is at least 4.5%, so it will not be below 4.5%. It's just the way that our salary scales are structured. They're not all, there's not an equal difference between them all, so we had to average it out. But it will be at least 4.5% across the salary tables.
So it could be more, it could be
slightly more,
but not below 4.5%. Okay, and can you tell me, so one of the questions I had asked that I hadn't received a response on is, so how many employees were at the top of this scale that this impacted? I know you put the budget amount, but how many employees does that?
I believe it was roughly 30 employees. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It's approximately 30 employees.
Approximately 30? Okay. All right, and did you?
Doesn't seem right with the amount of money that aside for that.
And I don't want to, if you could check that and see how many employees are there, because one of the other thoughts I had is, I think the intent was to do something or incentivize those that are at the top of the scale for, the number of years that they've been working in the system. And I was interested in knowing what it would cost to do the 4.5% as well as the 2.2% bonus, which I know you're not recommending the bonus, but what would have the total cost been had we included that? And I don't know if you have that number.
I don't have it with me, but I can get it for you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there any way you can get an answer to my question about where the funds will be coming from? Because I know what we could have used with that money. We could have started the JCOTS program before and after. Money like that, that's just money that's thrown away. So I would like to know where that money is going to come from.
Budget and put forth a recommendation.
Questions?
Included in the budget for the before and after school?
No, it's not.
It's
No,
not.
it's not. It's
Oh,
not.
it's not. Oh, well, the superintendent didn't put that in the budget. Oh, wow.
It is not currently in the budget.
Oh, wow.
The other question, may I continue with my questions? Okay. The bonus coming from the state. So when will those bonuses be disseminated? Do you have an idea of when that?
Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Our recommendation is that it be done in December.
December,
On a off-pay cycle. We're paid every 2 weeks, so typically we do the bonuses on a week where people aren't getting paid.
Okay. And can you, I don't think I heard you correctly, how much is the bonus in total? And I know, I did hear you say.
The estimate is
after
around
tax.
$600.
$600, okay, and
That
that's
is
before
before
tax?
taxes.
Okay.
And that's based on the total number of bonuses we distributed last month.
Okay.
Other questions, Ms. C?
Yes,
Other questions?
yeah, sorry, I was looking at my list of questions. For now, I do want to express, I am going to have, aside from the questions that were not answered or accommodated in my original set of questions when the budget was first proposed. While I really appreciate the effort to put the 4.5% for employees at the top of the scale, there's still a lot that lack clarity for me, so I'm not going to be voting in support of the budget. So just wanted to make that clear.
Do we need to take a vote tonight?
Yes.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Oh, she didn't have it on.
Don't have it on the agenda.
Yes, it needs to be voted on because it's got to go back to the council, just like your first budget.
Oh, and Madam Chair, if I may ask an additional question. So I know contracts also went out. So what will the process be for adjusting the contracts to reflect what is being
Our
revised?
Human Resources Department will be doing that.
Okay.
So it's something that'll go out in the summer.
Okay.
Certainly by the time the teachers or the staff come back to work.
Okay.
And it's not just teachers, I might also
Right.
add.
Right, okay.
This is your recommendation?
Beg your pardon?
This is your recommendation?
The recommendation
Okay.
is that you adopt the fiscal
Okay.
'26. And I'd like to add, our budget is actually higher now than the city has appropriated. So the council will have to, as Mr. Cloud had said, will have to consider the amendment as well. So, and the amendment is based on available funds, so I don't see that as an issue, but it will go to council before it becomes effective.
So, Madam Chair, I move to adopt fiscal year 2026 budget with amendments presented as presented.
Okay.
Ms. Tanner, will you please call the roll?
Basine?
Nay.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin? Aye. Paulson?
Aye.
Thomas? DeCalagero?
Aye. Moving on to agenda item 6.04, reappropriation of reversion funds.
Yes, Madam Chair, you have before you two resolutions. One is reversion funds. These are the funds that were not spent in the fiscal 2024 budget. That's last year, not this year. So these funds are available for you to reuse for non-recurring expenses. As I mentioned, the City Council's revenue sharing policy a couple of times, and then that policy indicates that school funds that are not spent during the school year revert back to the city under state law, but that those funds would be made available to the school district for one-time purposes upon your passing a resolution. I will say that these funds are actually included in our capital budget already, but because the policy says you need to pass a resolution, we recommend that you adopt the resolution. One is for the reversion funds, and then your next agenda item deals with excess city revenue that is made available to you under that same revenue sharing policy, or yes, policy. Thank you.
So we need to take a vote on this as well.
Yes, you have to vote on both of these. They will go to the city, even though, as Mr. Jenkins indicated, I believe the city went ahead and included those in their budget when they passed it. But you still need to tie up the loose ends, asking for the money back.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll put a motion on the floor. I move to approve the resolutions for appropriation of reversion funds and revenue sharing from fiscal year 2024.
Second.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Colonel Paulson. Ms. Moore Buffalo has put forth the motion, which has been seconded by Colonel Paulson. Do we now need to read the resolution? Do we have to read it? No.
I don't think you have to read it, but there has to be a roll call vote approving both. Pursuant to the motion.
Yeah, it's been seconded.
Seconded.
It's been seconded.
Ms. Tanner, will you please call the roll?
Okay.
Madam Chair, I think for full transparency, I think since we are doing this reset, let's read it so that citizens will know what it is.
All right, it's two separate resolutions.
Right, so this is the first resolution.
Okay. Whereas the state statute monies left unexpended by school divisions at the end of a fiscal year revert to their localities, and whereas the unassigned fund balance for Norfolk Public Schools on June 30th, 2024 was $6,462,467, and whereas this balance, it was million. Whereas this balance is the result of budgetary savings accomplished during fiscal year 2023-24, and whereas a provision in the City of Norfolk's revenue allocation policy permits funds that would otherwise revert to the city to be appropriated for use by the School Board of the City of Norfolk, and whereas the superintendent's proposed operating budget outlines reasonable and realistic uses of the reversion funds, and whereas it is imperative to augment the school division's efforts to recruit and retain highly qualified, effective teachers and staff, and to provide for instructional and social emotional learning resources for students and schools, as well as robust school safety and security programs. And whereas the superintendent recommended the use of fiscal year 2024 budgetary savings for school technology, musical instruments, security vehicles, the digitization of student records, the replacement of student football helmets, and towards targeted employee stipends and bonuses. And now therefore it be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk approves on this date of June 18, 2025, the submission of a formal request to Norfolk City Council for the reappropriation of the $6,462,467 for the purpose of augmenting the operating budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Tanner, please call the roll.
The motion was to approve both. So
Both.
you need to read the second.
We need the second one.
Order, Ms. Tan.
Not a problem. We had them as two different agenda items. So hold on a second.
They're
On the
They're listed as two different
They're
agenda
two-
items.
yeah.
So we need to call the roll on the first one.
You want to call the roll on the first one?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Basine?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Polson?
Aye.
Thomas? DeCalagero?
Aye. Now, 6.05, request for appropriation of school share of excess city revenue, 3.95 million. So we need that.
I'll read it. We need a motion, right?
We need a motion first.
So I move that we adopt the resolution of the School Board of City of Norfolk's appropriation of $3.95 million in excess city revenue allocated to the School Board of the City of Norfolk.
Whereas the city council.
We need a second.
I
on
second it.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
that. Do I have a second on the motion on the floor?
I second.
Thank you. Dr. Martin has put forward the motion, and Colonel Paulson has seconded it. Dr. Martin, would you please read the resolution?
Yes. The resolution of the School Board of the City of Norfolk, a resolution approving a request to City Council for the appropriation of $3.95 million in excess city revenue allocated to the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Whereas the City Council considers it essential to provide predictable, objectable means of allocating local revenues while providing sufficient funding to meet the strategic goals of both the City of Norfolk and Norfolk Public Schools, and whereas City Council on May 22nd, 2018 adopted the local revenue allocation policy and directed proper city officials to take all necessary actions to implement the policy, and whereas the local revenue allocation policy includes a provision that allocates 29.55% of specified local city revenues to the Norfolk Public Schools, and whereas the local revenue allocation policy includes a true-up provision stating that excess revenue will be allocated in the same manner as similar revenues where apportioned in the recently ended fiscal year, and whereas officials of the City of Norfolk have determined, that Norfolk Public Schools' share of excess local city revenue for the year that ended June 30th of 2024 was $3,951,457. And whereas the City of Norfolk's revenue allocation policy includes a provision in which the School Board of the City of Norfolk may request such true-up funds permits for one-time expenditures, and whereas the Superintendent of Norfolk Public Schools recommended the use of such true-up funds for major school maintenance, and now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk approves on this date of June 18th, 2025, the submission of a formal request to Norfolk City Council for the appropriation of $3,951,457. Am I saying this wrong? $3,951,457 for the purpose of augmenting the CIP capital improvement budget for the fiscal year of 2025-26.
Ms. Tanner, will you please call the roll?
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Thomas? DeCalagero.
Aye.
You.
Agenda item 6.06, interim superintendent contract. A vote is required. Do I have a motion to approve the interim superintendent contract?
I move to approve the interim superintendent contract for Dr. James M. Pohl.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion was put forward by Ms. Moore Buffalo and seconded by Colonel Paulson. Ms. Tanner, will you please call the roll?
Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Thomas? DeCalagero.
Aye. Moving on, the school board business meeting is now adjourned.